Well, hi everybody, welcome to 𝒂𝒊💏💂 in English, episode number 5. Thank you everybody for your attention and your stories. I hope you guys keep sending me more. The episode of today, it's called Finding Wisdom, which in my opinion, I guess you can only get wisdom with God. Anyways, I hope you guys this week has been okay and probably good, hopefully. And let's get started. So, finding wisdom, and the first story of today, it's called Finding My Faith Again Through Jesus Christ. It's Karen from Texas. Hi, I just want to tell my story. To be honest, I don't usually speak about religion, or when I do, I talk about spirituality. About my spirituality, I do it from a very personal point of view. I don't mention God as much, but in this platform, the symphony is different and then more like an open space for this type of experiences. I grew up being Catholic. The wife of my dad would take me to Mass on Sundays, and because I loved her, I would go. But if I want to be honest, I never fully understood what the Father would say at the Mass, or his duty as being the Father of the Church. I would pray the Heavenly Father prayer, Our Father, an Angel of my guard prayer, but just that. I remember very vaguely the one time I got angry at God and I told him, I'm not going to believe in you anymore. I've been there. I believe I was going through a lot during this season of my life because my parents would always be fighting and they would put me in the middle. I was only a teenager. It was too much for me. All the drama they would bring towards me. Later on, my dad passed away. I was trying to keep on going with life, looking for more and wanting to do more. But I was a little lost and my faith in God was completely broken by then. I feel like God has always been calling to me throughout my life. I had multiple Christian friends, but I've always been open-minded and worked with what worked with me. I married a Russian boy who turned out to be an Orthodox Christian. Even though he's not a typical Christian, we're so used to interacting with them on a daily basis. He's taught me a different way to go about life, to live in a peaceful and healthy way. Not that long ago, around the end of 2023 and beginning of 2024, we had moved to Houston, and it was a very chaotic change for me. I remember reconnecting with a friend who's also Christian, but in comparison to the other ones I met before, she made me feel very comfortable to talk to her, and I think that's where it was an opening to reconnect with God once more. After reconnecting, I had also started going to therapy. A person I know invited me to a book club they do continuously about a book of miracles, and that book specifically has too many explanations about Jesus' teachings. What started calling my attention more was how they presented faith, accessible and available for everybody, which is how it should be. We can't be putting God in boxes. We can be limiting God. When I had moved to Houston, I noticed now that a lot of wounds were present and opened by that move. There were broken pieces of me I never tended to and were still bleeding. I kept going to therapy because seriously, I couldn't do it alone. And I felt very lonely. Little by little, the path kept opening for me to learn more teachings about faith and start putting those teachings up into practice myself. I was also attending a weekly Bible study, and it helped me feel accompanied. Like to feel accompanied. The most beautiful thing about this journey of our connection to God was finding about the Holy Spirit. I believe around pandemic times, and even before that, around the death of my father, I was already practicing the habit of gratitude. But most of the times, it was not enough without faith in Jesus. And it was when I started opening my mind and heart towards miracles and towards how God is our creator, and we are his creation, how we come from him, and therefore, that makes us worthy. I understood we are his children, and I found satisfaction. And I found a satisfaction I cannot explain, but I can only feel. I can just simply say everything is perfect now. but it does feel a lot more doable now that I have more faith and continue to grow deeper in it. That season in Houston has many experiences full of different emotions, most of them not too good. Towards the end of 2024, I started meditating about the life I wanted for me and my husband. It felt as if God was inviting me to have more faith about it. Then we got out of Houston and found a city near Austin, which to me is just too precious. Austin is one of our favorite cities, my husband and mine. I love the art there. We have constantly traveled there throughout the years. We now live 45 minutes from one of our favorite cities, which is Austin. There are so many activities outside that we can do, rivers where we can go, which we love to do, and we're simply hard to do while we were living in Houston due to the sun we lived on. I feel like my genuine relationship with God has fulfilled me in so many different ways. Just to know the fact that I'm His daughter, more than plainly, just His creation, had reminded me of the relationship my dad and I once had. How He used to take care of me and wish goodness for me by making me feel safe in all aspects of my life. Now, I'm so grateful and happy to be able to share this. Little by little, there was a call that kept saying my name, that would say hi from time to time. And the prettiest of all that is that God is always available to you. There is no more resentment, which is something I used to struggle with personally. I don't feel emptiness anymore, and there's no argument that can win against it, at least not to me. I love creating spaces where I can dedicate my time to God. Today, I feel so grateful because of where we're living. While we were in Houston, I wanted to live in a place that had a yard so badly, where I could do the things I love, and now I have it. And I'm working on it so much with my hobbies, and our pets love it too. I'm very excited for the things to come, to keep on walking by the hand of God, learning and receiving, but also letting go of what needs to go. Just remember, we already have it all by the fact that we are His sons and daughters. It is a knowledge that goes beyond and deeper than any other symphony. I know Karen, and honestly, she's grown so much since last year. It's been incredible to see her growth and to see how much she's becoming simply like a better person, you know? I love seeing people maturing and healing and just becoming a better version of themselves. I love it. I made a little note here, and it says, life can be messy, but walking with God definitely makes things easier to either understand or to go through them, knowing that in the end, everything will be okay. There's beauty from ashes. Anything bad in our lives often can turn into one of our greatest blessings in disguise. That's all I have to say. I forgot to say that in the Spanish version. It's so pretty. Okay, number 2, it's called When Strangers Offer Help, and it's anonymous. Hi, I'm from Europe. I used to have very good friends that were married. I always thought they were such a good people because we were supporting each other, however way we could. Turns out they were good at lying and portraying themselves in a very good manner. Very humiliating pretending people. Little by little, things started to come to light, and their whole facade started fading. They started to get in trouble with multiple people as time went by. The husband served at a branch of the American military, the United States military, and the wife has 3 kids just like me. Looking back, I think that's why we connected so much. We would accompany each other in our moments. Oh, sorry, I'm not having like a brain fart. We would accompany each other in our moments of loneliness, and our kids were also friends. It felt like family. One day, she told me out of nowhere, they were going on vacation, but they haven't managed to get someone to take care of their dogs, which them being my friends and seeing them pressure to leave on time for their supposed vacation, and her also offering to pay for those services, I offered to have them in my house for a day or two so they can go, and I will reach out to see how to see who could be giving us their services to watch their dogs at their homes. Days went by, then weeks, and my neighbors were complaining to my landlord about the smell and the noise the dogs had 24/7. The landlord had threatened to kick me out at one point. This girl was not answering any of my texts at all. She had the audacity to leave me unread. She would see them but never answer. I was so desperate to not lose my home, the home of my kids, that I even considered letting go of the dogs with the expectation that people would take them and adopt them. In total, there were 4 dogs, and one of them had to be having medicine administered to her on a constant basis. I started to feel like I had gotten to the bottom of the pit and there was no exit. In my desperation, I told my boyfriend about the situation. My boyfriend ended up getting in touch with the supervisor of her husband, and we find out they never went on vacation. The guy was kicked out of the military because they were found lying in multiple of their paperwork, so they could get more money every paycheck. I didn't want to know much about it, but my boyfriend told me they lied about them being pregnant to receive more money, and simply I told my boyfriend I wasn't interested to know in what else they have lied. At this point, I was just already disappointed, and I was tricked by people whom I consider like family. I've been there, sis. The supervisor of the husband ended up suing them for all of this stress they were inflicting on me and the negligence of their pets. The lies in which they left Europe, I went and signed up what I had to sign, but I asked them to not keep me notified about anything. I was heartbroken of finding out the kind of people that they truly were, and by the fact that I was tricked in such a way. I put 2 of my dogs in the shelter. 2 others went into foster homes. By the way, they ended up getting adopted because they got so close to them. The dog that needed the medicine went to her original owner, which also turns out these people have lied and insisted to have her dog taken away from her because they will be able to give better care than her. Little did she know she was wrong. When the lady found out about it, she got mad, but also so happy she was reunited with her dog. The other dog, I have no idea what happened to her, but we live in a town where there are so many Americans and they're so fond of animals. Coincidentally, she was the only puppy, so I'm sure and expecting that the dog found a home where it's valued and feels safe. A year later, one of the ladies that had fostered one of the dogs ended up adopting him and is part of the Bible study community that I go to, which, by the way, I'm so grateful to have because they have been such a blessing to my life. The supervisor helping me without looking for anything else in return was just simply a blessing to me because I felt like I was running into a situation I fell upon. Months later, the wife of the guy that got kicked out, my ex-friend, decided to text me asking how the dogs were. Without knowing, I'm in a new era of putting boundaries of people like this in my life. Yes, girl. I simply saw the text and proceeded to block her on any platform I had and on my phone. That's crazy. On my phone number as well. No. In this season of my life, I'm focusing healing. I don't want to keep attracting these types of people or behaviors into my life. It's one of the things I've learned and recognized since I decided to try to get closer to God and learn more about Him and the Bible. I'm truly so grateful about the community and the girls from the Bible study because they have helped me so much to grow spiritually and psychologically. I feel much more blessed since finding the community and receiving the help sometimes the strangers gives us more than the people we know. I can confirm that. Honestly, I sometimes think that it's heavier on the heart or in our brain when when there is a breakup of friendships, because we see them as family to one point, you know, like they're family. We don't expect like a betrayal from them, and then to have that, it's just, or to like notice that you never really knew them, that's so painful. So I understand her frustration here. I truly do. And I also know what it is when strangers help you. And it's very touching, it's very humbling, it's very cute, it's very sweet to see how God uses anything to help you out when you need it, when you ask for it too. Even though sometimes He doesn't, but it's all a teaching. It's all a teaching, baby. I made a little note here. It says, sometimes it is better to be alone than with bad company. Also, many times we have grown up in an abusive environment and we stay there for most of our lives. So when we start to look at others without realizing we're just falling into the same behaviors because we're familiar, and that causes more pain than before. When we get out of that environment, putting the boundaries is what becomes hard, but it's always possible. It's hard having the veil ripped up and seeing things for what they truly are, and the heartbreak that friendships create on us sometimes can be bigger than the ones relationships cause. Yeah, and it also reminds me to I think it's Proverbs, I don't remember which one, but it says, bad company corrupts your character. So I believe that if you start noticing that your friends aren't good people, it's better to, of course, love them, you know, but also distance yourself from that, because bad companies corrupt good character. What's that mean? It's the Bible. But yeah, like yeah, friendship breakups can be very painful and very traumatic too, because you don't expect that from a friend. You don't expect betrayal from a friend. You don't expect them to give you more problems than what you already had. You don't expect them to not care about how you feel, you know. I think that's very important. Yeah, I'm glad everything worked out for her, and the two little dogs, not the dog reunited with her owner. But also the audacity of the girl, like calling her like after a year, after just like seeing her on red, like leaving her on red after all those times that she was like texting her. Ugh. God, please free us from people like that, please. Number 3. It's called Remembering the Advice of My Mother. It's anonymous. When I was little, my family and I would always go on vacation to a little town in Sinaloa, where my grandparents and parents grew up, and we would go to visit their families and spend time with everybody as well, so we could know their relatives and create bonds with their cousins. It was a good escape from the big city rush life we were so used to. The relatives of my dad live in a corner of the small town, and the relatives of my mom in the other corner, literally between a 20-30 minute walk. I will be in one or the other, and since everybody knew everybody, there were very little risk, pretty much almost zero risk of something ever happening to me while walking between their houses to go from one family to another. And I used to do that walk since I was 8 years old. One day, excuse me, one day, I accidentally skipped one of the turns that would take me to my mom's relative's house. And I kind of ended up on the main road, which I didn't know much about. I had basically just memorized the way from my dad's relatives to my mom's relatives and vice versa. And anything else, didn't know. I didn't want it to go around 2 or 4 blocks I had already missed, and I figured I could cut some streets going between houses by an empty lot. To my surprise, there were 2 trailers in there. My guess is that they were resting and eventually will continue driving. I passed by them real quick, very quietly, hoping they wouldn't notice, but I knew deep inside something was wrong. One of them saw me and instantly was like, hey little girl, with a very creepy smile, with a creepy smile. I hate this. And I just turned to him and I gave him a bad face in return, as if him talking to me was bothering me and trying to look as dangerous as I could. I kept on walking and he got off the truck, so I started running as fast as I could. After 2 blocks, I calmed down a little because he wasn't running after me anymore. While I was trying to catch my breath, all I started hearing was the noise of the engine and the vibration on the floors the trailers usually cause on the ground. I walked pretending as if I didn't see them, but I saw a space between houses and hid there. They kept driving, trying to find me until they got where I was and stopped driving. And it wasn't only one anymore, it was 2. I saw the co-pilot make the movements as to getting out of the trailer, and I just started running more in between houses, thinking they would look very suspicious following me if they did. They got back in the trailer, and I kept on running until I got to a store, because during all this chase, all I could hear was my mom's advice whenever I was facing situations like this. If someone you don't know, especially a guy, tries to talk to you, ignore them and give them a look as if you're disgusted they even talk to you. If the guys start to follow you around, run as fast as your legs let you, and then faster. Look for a woman, especially the ones that are pregnant or have little kids. They will try to help you. Go to public places where you can blend with everybody or hide without them noticing where you go. Go into stores, try to have your clothes changed. Go to the guards and tell them someone is following you. Go to places where families are. Do everything you can for them to lose sight of you. If they can't see you, they can follow you. While I'm running, I saw a little store, the store where I ended up. A store where I was there once or twice with my mom. I remember the owners were elder, so I went in. The lady saw my reaction and how out of breath I was. So she asked if something was wrong, to which I just got close to her and told her, 2 men are following me. I need you to hide me. I don't know them. And she did. I hid behind the counter, which kind of connected to their house. The 2 men, between 5 minutes after me, got inside the store and trailer park outside of in the middle of the street. Their corporal behavior showed how disappointed they were that I wasn't there, that they checked for me in the 2 little separations the store had. They did the behavior that men do when trying to catch something but miss it by a few inches. Arms up as if touching your shoulder blades, with some side letting free. Kind of like this, you know? The lady asked them, "Are you guys looking for something?" They said, No, you don't have what we're looking for. Thank you, have a good day." The lady just responded, "Oh well," looking at them with disgust. Good. Waited about 5 more minutes to verify from the door after the noise of the engine stopped and the ground no longer vibrated. After she no longer saw them, she told me it was okay to leave now. She told me how to get to my mom's relatives, and I started to walk towards their place. I'm just very grateful for the wisdom that sometimes sounded like nagging from my mom, because it literally saved my life. And of course for the lady, because on top of that, she was a great actor with those guys. She also had the courage to hide me and to do what was right, making a wise decision in a matter of seconds, which was to protect the child. I have a little note here that it says, it's so important to listen to the advice mom and dad have to offer, even though sometimes they can be annoying and sound like nagging most of the times. Sometimes they carry the wisdom from experiences and lessons they had endure with the weight of their own mistakes before acquiring the wisdom they later on gain. Yes, they make mistakes, but at the same time, they're also still learning. We always are. In this life as human beings, we're always learning from the injustices life may represent. Meanwhile, they still try to progress and evolve to be able to give us something they didn't have without knowing how to. That, however you may see it, it is worth respect towards them. And even if you can't respect them in a paternal or maternal way, give them that respect just for the fact that they're human and still trying to be better without the wisdom, with or without the wisdom they may have. I think it's very important. I remember when I was in my early 20s, I had a very difficult time trying to honor my parents, because I was like, how can I honor my parents? Like, they don't deserve it, blah, 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 blah. You know, like, I was getting like that entitlement that I feel like our generation is so brainwashed with. And I was like, I can't, they don't let me do anything to like, for me to honor them, blah, blah, blah. And little by little, I started to like gain more compassion and like more understanding on how sometimes they just, like, they didn't have the tools that we grew up with, you know? They didn't have the knowledge that we, being as accessible as we grew up with. And I feel that, like, it takes a lot of courage and a lot of bravery to say, like, I live this way and my kids won't live this way. And so yeah, there is mistakes because they don't know how to live in a way they didn't. So of course mistakes happen, but I think it's so important that we give them grace, because they're not giving us what they know, or at least they try not to. Because when you don't have wisdom, it's so hard to break the cycle, you know, to break the cycle and to do better for your children, or just in general in life. Yeah, it is very important. I can tell my life has started changing the moment that I started to honor them a little more. To think if they did something wrong to me, I'll just kind of like just forgive them and ask God to help me forgive them. But also just to not let myself be bitter because of the things they don't have the maturity to fix, you know. I have the maturity to understand why they do it, and I think that's enough. That is enough to keep on going. This reminded me to Exodus 20:12, which says, honor your father and mother so that you may live long in the land of the Lord your God is giving you. That was Old Testimony. And in the New Testimony, on Ephesians 6, verse 3 to 4, it reminds us of this, how it was the first commandment with a blessing after we follow it and after we honor that. Very important, very, very important. I think it's a blessing. And honestly, like, not just with like your parents to honor them, but I think that if you start honoring people, even when they don't deserve it, you get like something inside you changes. Like, I think positions where people have just like talked so poorly of me, and they have like created gossip or drama, and I remember like before I would just not, I would like confront them, but little by little I started learning. God has been teaching me to just honor them, you know, like to not say anything, because in the end they will ruin their own reputation. They get closed doors because of the things they do. At the end, we reap what we sow, and the only advice I have is to really honor people, but mostly honor your father and your mother. And if you don't have nothing good to say about them, the best thing that you can do is simply not say nothing, or look for a good memory and then just kind of like hold on into that and have the thing that you talk about them. It's very hard, but I think I can attest for my own life that my life changed after I started doing this. So yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for the attention, guys, and thank you so much for another episode with me, Echoes of Carmen, and I hope you guys have a beautiful weekend. God bless you.